If you've been wondering how to format your children's book and whether or not you should pay someone for this, then this video is for you. Sharing the do's and don'ts and tools you can use, this video can potentially save you hundreds of dollars and thousands if you're planning to write more than just one children's book. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. I create videos specifically for children's authors, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my weekly videos. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what formatting is within the book world, the pros and cons of hiring someone versus doing it ourselves. 3, the one thing that when set up properly will make the formatting of your children's book so easy. 4, the file format you want to make sure to save your formatted file in. 5, the main recommended formatting tools, and 6, the 7 main do's and don'ts you really want to pay attention to when formatting your book. I received this question on how to format a children's book so many times, especially these past couple of months, and I believe that's because the formatting process can be a bit intimidating. Oftentimes, aspiring children's authors can really be intimidated by the whole formatting process because they don't know how to go about it or what program, if any, to use. And oftentimes they are afraid of messing it up because they believe there is just one single way of doing things. And I can absolutely relate because I felt the exact same way with my first children's book. So if you too have been intimidated by this, take heart in knowing that formatting our children's book is much easier than you might have thought. And having done this for more than 50 children's books myself, please know that there really isn't just one single way of doing things. But if after watching this video you still feel you would benefit from step-by-step instructions on the formatting of both the paperback version as well as your ebook version, I also have my formatting mastery either as its own set of videos or as part of Children's Book University. So if you should still feel the jitters after watching this video, which I hope you won't, I have the link for you in the description below. Now, what does formatting refer to when we are talking about our children's book? Formatting refers to the setup of the interior of our book, so essentially the layout of each page with the illustrations and the text. The goal of the formatting process is to, at the end, have a file we can submit to our printer that contains all interior pages of our book. Here we will have to prepare separate files for our ebook version and our print versions, meaning we have to prepare them separately, 2 separate files. This video right here is all about the formatting of our interior file for our paperback version and also our hardcover version because the interior files for those two are very similar. I may make a separate video on how to format our ebook, but again, this video is specifically for the preparation of the interior files for the print versions of our beautiful children's book. Now, something you may or may not have considered before is to hire a formatting service. So I wanted to take a look at the pros and cons of doing it yourself versus hiring someone to do it for you. One of the main reasons you may have considered formatting your book yourself are, of course, the costs associated with that type of service, right? Here, the prices for having our children's book formatted vary greatly, where it's not uncommon to go into the hundreds. So by doing the formatting ourselves, we would obviously save that associated cost. Additionally, something I always like to point out here is that some of the costs that might not always be apparent right away, or that many new authors tend to forget about, are these right here. Number 1, updates of any kind. So once the service has been rendered by the paid formatter, fixing any mistakes you might find later on, like typos for example, you would have to pay the formatter again. Or let's say you wish to switch out an illustration or you want to update your author bio. Every time you want to make changes to your book, you would have to hire and pay a formatter again. And on top of that, depending on the formatter's workload, you would have to wait for them to make those changes. And number 2, future books. If you are planning to write more than just one children's book, you essentially have to pay for the formatting for each of your books, which depending on how many books you're writing, may really add up over time. Now, if on the other hand, you were to format your children's book yourself, then the formatter would be free. You would have no additional costs whenever you're looking to make any internal changes to your book. You wouldn't have to rely on the formatter's schedule and could make any of your edits right away. And once you have learned how to format your book yourself, you can do so over and over again with any of your future books, because it's a skill you only need to learn once. Now, in the end, whether you are formatting your book yourself or are going to hire a book formatter, that's of course entirely up to you. But I hope that these pros and cons will help make this decision a little easier. Now, the one thing I always try to emphasize, whether that's in my book, How to Self-Publish a Children's Book, or within Children's Book University, is this. If your illustrations have been created in the correct format, the formatting is going to be a piece of cake. Now, when I say correct format, what do I mean by that? When having your illustrations created, we will want to make sure of a number of things. One, we will want to make sure they are being created in the correct trim size. To help you with this, I have created a whole separate video for you, which I will link to in the description below. But in essence, you will already want to know what trim size you want your final book in, so that your illustrator can create them in the already correct dimensions. Because what we don't want is having to resize the illustrations after the fact, because that can really mess with the quality and resolution of our illustrations. If they are being created in the exact size we need, then the formatting is literally a copy and paste kind of scenario where we simply plug in our illustrations. And two, we will want to make sure that our illustrations are being created using the right resolution. KDP, which is the print-on-demand platform I usually recommend to fellow children's authors, accepts a DPI between 300 and 600, where DPI refers to the number of printed dots contained within 1 inch of an image. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, because your illustrator will know. But when commissioning your illustrator, you will have to let them know your required DPI. I usually go with 300 DPI, and here's why. It's important to know that the higher the DPI, the bigger the file size. I'm using the same illustrations for both my print versions as well as my ebook versions. And so for ebooks, the bigger the file size, the greater the digital delivery costs associated with my ebook. Now, this video is about the formatting of our print versions, right? But I wanted to add this fact about ebooks here, because this may influence your decision as to what DPI setting you should be using for your illustrations, or what DPI settings you should let your illustrator know they should be using. Because again, your illustrations will be used for both your print versions as well as your ebook version. And so for KDP's 70% royalty plan for their ebooks, the delivery fee to People's e-reader is 15 cents per megabyte. To give you a general idea, my ebook file size after conversion for an around 40-page book where the illustrations are set to 300 DPI is usually between 3.5 to 4 megabytes. So the delivery fee per sold ebook would be 15 cents multiplied by the file size, so between 52 cents and 60 cents per sold ebook. And considering that I usually choose the 70% royalty plan and that I price my ebooks at around $2.99, I want to keep this delivery fee for my ebooks as low as I possibly can. And that's all I'm going to say about ebooks in this particular video, because again, this video is meant for the formatting of our print versions. Now let's look at the different file formats for our print versions that are accepted by KDP that we can submit our interior files in. For best results, KDP recommends using a formatted PDF file when we are uploading our interior file, and that's the format I prefer using for my own books as well. But we can also upload our file as a Word doc, an HTML file, or an RTF file. But again, I personally like using PDF simply because the tools that I'm using to create my interior files can easily save my file as a PDF, which brings me to my next point. So let's look at some of the different tools we can use to format the interior of our print version. There are many different tool options out there, so the main thing I would like to say here is to use the tool or software that you feel most comfortable with and that fits your budget. The options I would like to recommend for the formatting for your interior files are these three right here. Number one is to simply use Word Doc or Google Docs. Within Children's Book University, I provide actual Word Doc templates we can use. That's what I started out with nearly 10 years ago, and that's still the main method I'm using to this day. So it's so easy, clean, and so quick, especially with these templates. Now, a word of caution when it comes to using Google Docs. Google Docs work really well for regular children's books with mainly illustrations and very little text. But I would not recommend it for chapter books or for books with lots of text that would require a certain gutter setting. The gutter is the adjacent inner margin of facing pages when a book is open. And Google Docs, as of right now, does not have this option. But if you have mainly illustrations with little text, then Google Docs can absolutely be used. Option number two is to use Adobe InDesign. Now this one I mention here because that's what a lot of illustrators and also professional formatters use. However, this option does have a steep learning curve. So of those three options I'm sharing with you here, this would be the last one I would recommend. And option number three is good old Canva. I love Canva. I use it all the time for all sorts of things, including the formatting of some of my children's books. Canva has a free as well as a paid version, and you can do everything you need to do with the free version. I love recommending this option because we don't need a subscription or don't have to already own any programs in order to use it. And if you have watched my separate video on fonts, you already know that most of the fonts used on Canva are what is called open source fonts, which means most of their fonts can be used for commercial usage, such as for printing of a book. If you haven't watched this video on fonts yet, I've linked to it in the description below. And because Canva is such a great option, I've actually created a number of templates for it that would allow us to simply plug in our own illustrations, add our text, and then download it as a PDF. Really simple, really easy. So if you have been looking for a really easy way to format your paperback, perhaps give those templates a try. I've called them plug and go templates, and they also come with step-by-step video instructions on how to use them. So I've added the link for you in the description below. Now that we have the acceptable file formats and have a number of different tools we can use and choose from, let's look at the 7 do's and don'ts when it comes to the formatting of our children's book. Number one is that our interior pages of our book have to be submitted as one single PDF file or whatever file format you chose among the options I already shared with you. Meaning we cannot submit our pages individually as a number of individual PDF files for each of our pages or images. We can only upload one single file for the interior of our book. Now the reason I mention this here is because many aspiring children's authors think they have to submit a separate file for each page. So remember, one interior file per book. Number two is that if you have double spread illustrations, meaning your illustration covers both the left and the right side in your book, you will have to submit it in such a way that the left page will hold the left part of your illustration and the right part will hold the right part of your illustration. Meaning you can't submit your pages as double spread pages. Within your PDF or whatever file format you choose, each page in this PDF has to appear as it would in the book. So each page in your book will have to be its own page in your PDF file. So let's look at an example where we have this illustration right here that is meant to spread across the left and right side of an open book. On the left, that's the image I have, but that's not how I will have to submit it. The correct way to submit it for my print version is here on the right, where one page holds the left side of the illustration and the next page holds the right side of that illustration. Because it covers 2 pages, we will have to submit it as 2 pages. Now, one of my great ninja tips when it comes to our files for any print version of our children's book is to think of your page layout this way right here. What you see is what you get. Meaning, however we wish each page to appear in our printed book, that's exactly how we will have to submit that page in our submitted file. Number 3 is that our cover is not part of the interior file for our print versions. So we will want to make sure not to include the cover in that file. When it comes to print versions of our book, the cover is always uploaded separately as a separate file. Number 4 is that the first page of our PDF or whatever file format you are choosing is always a single page that is on the right in your completed printed book. And that's really important to remember so that you place your pages properly. So the first page of your PDF can therefore never be part of a double spread, right? So remember, the first page of your file will always show up on the right in your book. So simply imagine opening up your book. What do you want to see on that first page? Is it a blank page? Then you will have to add a blank page. Is it your title page? Then that's what you would add as your first page. Is it a dedication page or a special quote? Then add that as your first page. And again, that first page will be a single page that will be located on the right. So you will want to be aware what pages of your book are meant to be on the left and what pages are meant to be on the right so that you can line and set them up properly. Number 5 is to remember that the left pages of your book are always even numbered, while the right pages are always odd numbered. But unless your book is a chapter book, it's a lot easier to simply leave out any page numbers and to not have them printed on your pages. In fact, most picture books don't have any numbers printed on them, but if you should decide to include them, know that the title page, which is always on the right, as I have already shared, would be page number 1. However, title pages usually don't have the page number printed on them, so they are omitted here. But if we turn the page, the next page, which would be on the left, would show the page number 2, and the page on the right of it would show the page number 3, and so on. Number 6 is to remember that the counted number of pages and the printed page numbers displayed on the pages are not the same. Now, this isn't really relevant or important when setting up our paperback version over on KDP. But when setting up our hardcover over on Ingram Spark, we will be asked to enter the number of total pages of our book. And that information is important because of the width of the spine of our book will differ depending on the number of pages, because the more pages, the wider the spine. So again, the number of pages and your printed page numbers are not the same. They differ because our printed page numbers only begin on the title page, right? As I just shared with you. That number omits any pages prior to that, such as your credit page or a quote page or any other page that you might have added prior to that. So here my ninja tip would be to simply look at your PDF file, and however many number of pages it shows in the page count, that's your number of pages to enter for the purpose of determining the width of your spine. And lastly, number 7 is that in the end, the placement of the other parts of your book that are not part of your actual story is very much up to you. Whether that's your credit page, the dedication page, or the About the Author page. And I mention this here because oftentimes so many aspiring children's authors or authors in general get really hung up on the order or placement of the different elements. There is never just one way of doing things, so my biggest suggestion here would be to simply look at a number of different children's books, see their sequence of their pages, and choose the one that speaks to you the most. So for example, some people have the dedication page before the credit page, while others have them after the credit page. And sometimes authors choose to combine them where the dedication is simply placed above the credit part on the same page. That's completely up to you. Now, knowing these main do's and don'ts, knowing that we can simply use software like Microsoft Word or Canva, and knowing that there is no one way to format, and that instead we can simply grab a children's book off of our shelf and copy its setup, the formatting is literally a plug and go process. So if you were to use Microsoft Word, for example, you would simply go to its page settings and enter the correct trim size you choose for your book. And again, I'll make sure to add the link to the trim size video below. And then you would simply add your pages one at a time, add your illustrations one at a time, and add your text if it isn't already part of your illustrations. And if you chose the PDF format, simply save and download it as a PDF file. And that is it. And like I said, to make it even easier where you already have all the parts provided for you, you can even use my Canva templates that I have created that also comes with videos. But you can do all this on your own very easily. And something you will want to make sure you do in the end is, of course, check your PDF so that your pages truly line up, especially if you have illustrations that go across the entire spread, meaning the left and the right page. And the way I go about this is I simply open up my saved PDF, and under View, I go to Page Display, and I select Two-Page View. And I also make sure that the Show Gaps Between Pages and Show Cover Page in Two-Page View is selected. So go ahead and do that. And because we have the Show Cover Page and Two-Page View selected, the first page will be a single page, just like I showed you before, where the first page is always a single page. But all the following pages will be displayed as a double spread. So left here and right here. Left here, right here. And so I go through all the pages to make sure that the illustrations, our separate single pages, line up. And that's how I check my PDF. When formatting your beautiful children's book, the main thing I would love to encourage you to do is to trust yourself. To trust that you can do this. So often are we intimidated by the new, by things we have never tried before. And so often do we assume that others know so much more or are so much better, when in reality we may be just as good. It's not that I knew more when I formatted my first children's book. It's just that I realized that my confidence in myself is created when I allow myself to just try new things and being okay with failing. Because guess what? If I do, I can simply try again. Confidence is a belief, nothing else, where despite not knowing how, I'm willing to just try. This is probably one of my longest videos, so I really hope you found this helpful and that it saves you so much money on the way. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really encourages me to keep making free videos for you just like this one. Here's to your beautiful formatted children's book. Bye! Blah, blah, blah. Whew, that was a long one.